Hi, my name is Steve Moneypenny, and I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in rural West Virginia, where I still live. And the rumors are pretty much true. Everybody here does have a gun behind their door somewhere, whether they use it for hunting, for sport, or for personal defense. So from the time I was very young, the hunters coming in deer season were my earliest memories. Everybody sitting around the fire, talking about their day, and cleaning their guns, which for some reason the guns seem to interest me a lot more than their hunting stories. From that time on, there's been some aspect of a gun or firearm or projectile weapon in my life. My grandfather, when I was a small child, taught me how to make a bow and arrow out of some hickory shoots and a string. Of course, it wasn't very accurate and it wasn't very powerful, but it was a start. And from that point on, I either used a bow, an arrow, slingshot, rifle, pistol, shotgun, BB gun. Something was some part of my sporting life. And I was 15 years old when I started martial arts. I'd already had a strong firearm background, but I took a few years off from those passions and started competing in martial arts. It taught me a lot about respect, discipline, and hard work. By the time I was 16 years old, I started competing nationally. I became an All-American athlete and won my first national championship. From that point on, I was pretty much hooked on competitive shooting from where I'd seen on television. The steel challenges started becoming more popular on TV, and I went to a local hunting and fishing days event where a top level national shooter had come in and gave a demonstration. And from that moment on, I knew I had to find a way to get into it. So I found a club about an hour or so away and a good instructor, and I started training. And soon I became fairly proficient with a handgun and moved to national and national level competitions, and then on to international level competitions. I became a USPSA Grand Master, an IDPA 3-gun master. I've placed twice in the top 10 in IDPA Nationals, 3 times in the USPSA top 16, and trained and competed with some of the best shooters in the world. Shooting is just one of those things where I know I'm made for it. The feeling of a gun in my hand just feels like it's natural at this point. And whether it's a rifle, a pistol, a shotgun, a submachine gun, a long rifle, it's something that allows me to better myself, to practice with, and to teach other people something that maybe that they hadn't ever thought would be an enjoyable sport to them. The shooting sports are some of the oldest sports in the United States. If our forefathers hadn't picked up a musket and went out to defend their homes and went to war, we wouldn't have the country that we live in today. And that's one of the greatest passions of my life. Mostly the shooting sports, martial arts, and drag racing, autocross. It seems like everything I get into I want to do my best at, and I'm very competitive in the aspect that I push myself. I'm my own worst critic. No matter how well I do, I always feel that I should have done better. And to describe myself, I think competitive, driven, hardworking, and dedicated are the best ways that I describe myself. But don't get me wrong, I like to have a lot of fun too, but most of my time is spent either training or preparing to do something that is a fun hobby to me. I asked my friends to describe me, and I got some strange answers. I got some people that never answered me at all, but the ones that I felt were most relevant is people thought that I was always a student of life. No matter what would happen, I would always want to learn from it. Some of them thought I had a positive attitude, others thought I was just a smart ass with some endearing qualities thrown in there. And I feel that a student of life and a student of everything that I do, because if I'm not being challenged and not learning, I get bored very easily. One of my most interesting and favorite memories of shooting would be in 2003 when there was about 3 of us competing for a state level match in Ohio. None of us were top tier shooters, of course, but we all loved what we did and felt that we would be someday. All 3 of us are now top tier shooters, and we were competing for the production title. I wasn't expected to win. The other 2 knew that they were going to win. It was just amongst them. Well, I managed to capitalize on their mistakes. And even though that I had made some mistakes, I didn't make as many as they did, and I managed to pull off a production title. And that was my first major match win. A few months later, I competed in the Ohio Karate State Championship, where by the grace of God and stuff, I managed to actually win the state title. And for about 9 months there, I was actually the Ohio State Pistol Champion and the Ohio State heavyweight fighting champion. And that was one of my best memories. I think that giving the chance for the History Channel and Pilgrim Films to put a sport that is so deeply rooted in our nation's history to the forefront and allow everybody to see what we do in different competitive levels and all the different challenges is something that's awesome to do. And I hope that I can be a part of that.